Much like me as a child, this was not planned. But, much like me as a child, it ended up being the best possible thing that could have happened. Not me having to be alive, but if you're going to have a kid, it comes out and ends up being me. Point is, boom! Slain the Horned God. The Gorned Hod by Byman Sisley. Fuck yeah. Completely by coincidence. A couple of weeks ago, looked at The Horned God because I did find my copy, so that was nice. And then last week, looking at some of the newer but still a bit older now Horned God, Simon Bisley painting in 2000 AD, which is cool. And then it just so happens I was able to get a copy of this. Ah! I was so I was so glad to be able to get a copy, because I wasn't sure, because the comic store I frequent is a chain store. It's Forbidden Planet. It's really hit and miss as to whether or not they'll actually have good stuff in there. Oh, excuse me. I went to the section of new stuff where they put new stuff out, and it wasn't there. But then I went to a different section where they have art, specifically art-related stuff, and they had it there. Loads of copies. Grabbed one, took it home immediately, and I basically haven't put it down since, because I just... Oh... You know, good grief, look at it, it's fucking... Now, so we'll look at it in a sec, but I did want to say, it's cool because I had this was, you know, it's the collection sort of thing. Batman, Dread, Simon Bisley comic, like, cool, it's good to just be able to see it. Then, at some point, I found this in a comic shop, which is obviously the same book, but slightly bigger. So even though it's only slightly bigger, it's still, you can still see more details in it than you could otherwise. For instance, there's the bit where Death gets his new digs, and there's parts where is it? Where here, because he scratches the bike helmet to look a bit more like his typical helmet, you can see it's actually physically scratched into the painting. You can see the paper scratched away, that Simon Bisley actually scratched the paper away. So that's cool, which I didn't realise while looking at the smaller print version. But with the bigger version, it's... Because, I mean, maybe you can see, but it just kind of looks like white paint. But then it's a bit clearer here, the texture and stuff. So that's like, you know... From that to that, it's not a huge difference, but it's enough of a difference that it sort of makes a difference. Then you've got this, my original copy of SLAINE, the Horned God, and it's cool, it's fine, it's fun, it's whatever. But then it's almost exactly twice the size, and the level of detail and shit that you can see is insane. Well, it's not insane, it's just literally what's on the page anyway. Fucking Jesus, shut up. Just look at the thing. Yeah, so I've spent days looking through this already, and this may end up being like a really, really long recording of looking through it and going, oh, look at that. Oh, isn't that cool? Oh, look at all the detail. I think it's all on, just about all on screen. Of course, it being a recording of just looking at a not necessarily high quality recording of me looking at a book, I don't know how much you'll be able to see as opposed to how much you were able to see in previous books and such, but god damn, it's good. It almost feels like a completely different book just being this size, because I feel like I'm seeing the art in a different way, which is really, really weird. Because I am. I'm just seeing it's bigger. Like all the detail and everything is just so much more intense. It's so much more you can see more because it's bigger. Brilliant, Ewan. Bloody brilliant. You're so clever. You're so... For me, this is like... This is my form of a vacation, where people work and then they save their money up and then they go away to somewhere sunny and they sit by the pool and they drink pinas coladas. Do 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 do. Oh, Jesus Christ, look at that. I think this is... The actual artwork was probably closer to like this size, like the whole of this. But even so, this is much closer to the original artwork size, and it's so nice to see. But then, as I was going to say, for me, this is my version of that vacation. Like I'll put my money towards a book like this and just spend days and days fucking looking at it, going, oh, 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 oh. There's some ASMR for those who are interested in that sort of thing. I mean, I might only end up saying the same shit I say when I look through the Horned God previously. Of like, wow, look how detailed it is. Isn't it cool to have these big like splash panels and shit? Which it is, but it's that, but even more so, because while looking through it over the last few days, and it's been a few days since I got the book, I've already like noticed so much more about the artwork that I hadn't like noticed previously, which is strange because, you know, it's not like I looked through the comic and didn't really pay much attention to the artwork before. Like, I haven't read the thing still. I've only ever paid attention to the artwork, but even so, I'm seeing much more of the artwork. There's a few very specific things I'll sort of point out as and when we get to them. But it's just so... I actually have slept with this right next to me for a couple of nights. I have a double bed, and I tend to only sleep on mostly one side, sort of in the middle, but not quite. Plenty of room for this book to lay next to me, though. I'm not too wild a sleeper. I don't roll about all over the place. Just so in the morning when I wake up, normally I'd sit on my phone and just be like, whatever. But then I wake up and the first thing I've been doing is looking at this and just loving it, loving every fucking inch of it. Every sexy inch. Even the babies are sexy. I know that's a bit of a weird... Probably shouldn't go saying shit like that, should I? It feels like... it feels more like artwork. The smaller copy feels like it is a comic made by a person, sure, and you can see it's painted and this and that, and there's details and but then seeing it at this scale it feels more like art. Like the paint looks more like paint. The pencil strokes, which I think are like these purple lines, he uses colour pencil quite a lot, they feel more like actual size, so it feels like you're seeing the art. Now we just need one of these for Judgment on Gotham, the Batman Dread crossover. We need, you know, just basically anything and everything. Oh, the Heavy Metal Dread, those ones. We'll need a collection of just Bisley's Heavy Metal Dreads at this size, just so you can see it all in all its splendour and its glory. I've tried painting like dappled sunlight coming through leaves onto bodies and things, and it's ridiculously hard to do. This isn't even necessarily a perfect example. It's fairly basic what he's done here, but it's perfectly like good enough. And his paintings of like the foliage and stuff, it almost looks like the sort of stuff you'd see in a Bob Ross video in terms of like application of paint and stuff, where he's using texture to paint the leaves and things rather than individual brush strokes or whatever. The shit you notice. And I love how the places he uses spray paint feels a lot more apparent at this size as well. Like here, where it's just like just a fucking swath of red spray paint. I'm doing this as if I'm using spray paint. A swath of red spray paint leaking into these panels, and then painting on top of that with the flesh colour. But then he's got, I think, some red paint sprayed over the flesh as well. Like, that's a really, really nicely painted panel. It is cool, like, to get, you know, some panels that are just whatever. Like, the faces in these aren't anything particularly special. It's probably quite quickly done. But then when you do get like a bit more of a close-up on a face, and he actually takes the time to sort of, not even heavily rendered. If you look at like the paint used, it's minimal, but it's used in such a way that it highlights what's necessary to really give that head and that face the form it needs. There's almost way more spray paint than I actually first thought. Like, it's spray all over the place. And I'm like 99% sure it is spray paint and not an airbrush. Because I think airbrushes tend to have a bit more sort of like subtlety and finesse to them. But stuff like this definitely feels like it's like, I don't know, a can of Krylon or something, just flat black, just sprayed up here for like the texture and whatnot. Although that could even be like flicked splattered paint. It varies. I love the boar heads here, where it's just a drawing with a bit of paint, but it's got like enough texture and stuff to work. I've gone on and on about the crow and the boar and everything. No more of that. Oh, Slaufeg, the horned god, the Lord Weird. I was actually planning to read this book in the last couple of days. I was like, oh, I'll actually sit and read it, because, you know, it's a comic. I could read it in a couple of hours. It wasn't that hard, would it? And then next time I look at it on the podcast, I'll have all this extra information based on having actually read the fucking thing. But I didn't! You know, why would I? Why would I put effort into anything ever? I like that there's there are bits like this. Looks more like a typical old school comic book with the inked drawings and then like sort of washes of colour. And there are parts that look more like drawings where there is more line work and hatching and stuff. And then there's that contrasted with like more painted stuff. Like this looks like a painting, and these look more like drawings that are coloured in. But that's multimedia, isn't it? It's fucking a bit of this, bit of that, put it together. Fucking, there's Ukko writing the whole story. That's all fun. I quite like that as like a plot device as well. Not just the story is being told by Ukko writing it, but also like cutting to and from him, because he's a funny little guy as well. I love this bit. I guess SLAINE's up and about, so Ukko's about to join him. He's like, oh shit, SLAINE, I must tell him about Megrim. SLAINE! And previously he's, I guess, just sucking milk out of a goat's tit. Because the way he's holding it, and there's no bucket, you can only assume he's there sucking the milk out of it. Which is pretty great. I love the way the drawing of the goat as well. A mixture of paint and coloured pencil to get the texture of the fur. And I really like the lighting, because it's not just overall like white fur, it's like really light here and it fades sort of this way. That's really, really good. And the foreground details, the texture of the ground school and this sort of like branch or whatever, that's very Frazetta-esque. armour details. There is something about a helmeted head in profile view that Simon Bisley obviously loves to paint and draw. He does them a lot, and as a result, when he does them, you can tell like he's sort of enjoying doing it, because that to me stands out. Like that looks like something he's sort of drawn a million times, so when he draws it, he really fucking draws it. And that those like heads in profile with cool helmets and stuff appear in so many of his comics, in like ABC Robots, in some of his Judge Dredd stuff. It's in here a few times, I think. That's an example I use all the time for stuff like that. It's like me drawing goblins. Like I've drawn goblin faces so much, I can just draw them like so expertly and brilliantly, obviously. I love the pencil drawings as well. Again, to have a difference between like the painted panels and then the penciled panels. And I don't like, at first when I first looked through this, I thought like, oh, this must be like a flashback or something. I've not read it obviously, but I don't think that is the case. It's just maybe he just couldn't be fucked to paint it, and he did the drawings and he was like, do you know what, it looks good as it is, I'll leave it like that. Which I wish I had that confidence to do, because there's so many times I've wanted to leave something but I've thought, no, I've got to finish it, and I finish it and I kind of like hate it. And I wish I'd stopped like several steps back, but that's how it goes. And if nothing else, it makes it more interesting to look at, because if this was all painted like this, you sort of wouldn't care, you wouldn't pay it any mind necessarily. But the fact that it looks different means you sort of like, you take a step back and go, oh, okay, let me pay attention. And like the red sprays here, I assume he would have done that thinking he would then paint on top of it, which you can see he'll use, like I do with red underpainting, just a spray of red here that he'll then paint on top of, just so there's a bit of like colour underneath what he's painting. So he may have done that with the thought of like he will paint on top of it. And like there's some yellow paint in the skin here, some yellow here. But he might have not. He might have just put it on top of the pencil thinking, oh, it just needs just a little bit of something else. It might even be under the pencil. Who knows? Who bloody knows? These panels come onto something I don't think I ever noticed. I don't recall ever noticing. I'm almost certain this is blue ballpoint pen he's used for the lines here. Like the line quality and the hatching and stuff, it's quite scribbly hatching. And I'd done a few illustrations like that at university. I realised if you use a blue ballpoint pen and brown washes, before I'd seen this comic, it gives a really sort of like interesting feel to it. And that's exactly what he's done here. And also here, blue ballpoint pen for the line work and then painted over it, which is really odd. I mean, it's not outrageous, but it's quite, like, to use ballpoint pen for the ink is fine, it's whatever, because once it dries it's waterproof, so it makes sense for painting on top of but then to use blue ballpoint pen is such a strange thing, because it's almost like the lines have to be black and then you paint it on and then you whatever. But you can see it in here, the blue ink lines in here and here. All these ink lines are blue, and then they've got like washes and then thicker acrylic paint over them. This is all like scribbled in with the blue ballpoint pen, and it makes me wonder, same here and here, about his process of like, did he pencil it in lightly first, or is he drawing these straight into ballpoint? Because I imagine this is done on like artboard, so it's difficult to like lightbox it and stuff. Not impossible, but not necessarily easy. It's just a very odd choice. And let's see, I'll find that page in the smaller one. So there's him with the goat, and yeah, you get the sort of sense of it overall, but it doesn't have the same impact in the smaller version as it does in the big, which makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, now I look at it, I can see the blue lines and whatnot. But I don't think I'd registered. Like here, it's clearly ballpoint pen, and I'm thinking, and like that's just like, that almost looks like a notebook doodle with like really fairly scribbly cross-hatching, not even cross-hatching, really just hatching, and then cross-hatching on the ground here, and all these lines. That's just a ballpoint drawing out of a notebook almost. But it's cool. I like it. Like, fuck it, do that shit. And then here it looks like he's using a black ballpoint pen for hatching, or maybe it just appears that with the paint over it. I'm not sure, but still, yeah, there's blue lines here and here, and here. This is really, really like obviously the blue pen, which is very interesting because normally, well, not normally, but often, you know, comic book artists are very like, you use a dip pen or a brush and you ink it nicely and stuff. And obviously Simon Bisley is not necessarily ever been an average comic book artist, so there's no reason he should do everything the normal standard way. But I think using a blue ballpoint pen, it is quite strange, quite out of the ordinary, and it's good to see. It's very good to see. I like these bits as well. So this is obviously the paperback version, very soft version of the book. They also released hardback versions in 3 volumes in like a box set, which it looks really nice, but it's like £150 or something, and you know, this was like 30, so I'm not paying £150 just to have like nicely fucking leather bound hardback versions of this book. But I do like, at the very least, they do have like some of the original cover artwork, which is so nice to see, because I'd never seen this before. From '89, I was a year old, barely even that. The covers. So this would be what you saw on like the shelf at the news agents or the, you know, comic store or whatever. And then it separated, so now we're into book 2, so that would be the first. Back when 2018 was 35p. Jesus. Be lucky to get anything for 35p these days. That's really cool. Little bonus drawings. There's some more of those towards the back as well, so we'll get to those obviously. But yeah, really, really cool to see those also. Training montage, throw in the spear with his foot, stabbing the dummy and then ripping his guts out. Something, a dragon! Oh, far dragon! You can see here, I assume you can see, I can see here, I don't know if you can see here, but a light mist of black spray paint over this whole thing, I assume to dull it down and make it look like more of a nighttime image. Like even the lightest bits of paint have a dusting of black spray paint over them, so that's an interesting thing as well. Like, oh, the image needs to look a bit duller, a bit darker, it's too bright and vibrant, it's fucking black spray across it. Why not? It works, and it has like a certain sort of like grain to it, which you know, it's texture, and it's good. It's good. Ultimately, is good. The end. Same here. Just so much spray paint. Like, I know he's used it, but yeah, didn't quite realise quite how much. That's a great panel. The screaming spear. Anytime there's a lot of red is really impactful. Like the one I was looking at way back, and I was like, oh, that's such a good painting. Red. Some of my favourite Gun Viking pages are the ones where it's like all red, where he's in like a rage or whatever. Pages and pages of people talking. We get it. We fucking get it. As always, I like the parts where it's, you see the underpainting, just the colour wash, and then minimal paint on top. That's all you need. Just get the details out there. Just show what you need to show. Fuck everything else. The yellow here is so effective. It's fire, so it needs to be bright, so that makes sense. But like, the purple is not dark, but it's a darker colour than the yellow, and then the turquoises and the greens, they're all fairly dark, and then the yellow here is obviously from the glow on the stone of the castle, but even that is like a duller yellow ochre. But then you get like the bright fucking cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, the brightest yellow possible. And I like that he hasn't put like white in there, which I would probably have done. It just being like harsh yellow really does give it just I don't know, a harshness and a heat. It really has heat to it. The reflection on the dragon itself is really good. Yeah, really nice, really effective. And here with the burning bodies and such. Good shit, man. And these are several panels I will always talk about whenever I see them. As before, minimal painting. Didn't even paint anything of this guy. Just paint around him so you can see him. And you can see some details of his armour in the drawing, but barely. The table, fuck that. Most of the clothes, fuck them. Just get the skin in and the basic whatever. Similar here. And then this one, because why spend time on all of this when you can just sort of, you get the idea. But then you get to this panel, that's where you want to spend the time making that look fucking as brilliant as it does. The cloth of his trousers all like crunching up and wrapping around his leg, that's not easy to do with the squares on it. The rendering on the arm and face and the hand, and then the double lighting on that, and the movement in the hair, and this sort of like line of blood coming off of his axe. Dragon fight. This is cool, where it might have been done with like a palette knife, or maybe even just like a bit of card, or like literally a credit card. I've seen people do that. You get paint on like a credit card or whatever and just fucking like scrape it onto the surface, and it does give these like harsh, bold streaks of paint. For clouds or whatever, I assume that's what that is. Shit like that as well, like the harsh blue skies, just quickly get those in because you've got to paint these dragons, so that's where your time's going. So for the sky, just blue, that's fine. But then you get time to like do a panel like this. There's purple, red, yellow, green, orange, blue. Did I say blue already? And then like the lighting, so the sun is here and it's reflecting through the clouds and everything. And then the half the dragon being lit and half it being in shadow, that's really effective as well. Like the clouds being lit up blue within the purples and the reds, and then the darker. Really nice. Another one where it's like basically all silhouette, but then you pull out just a few like scales and teeth, just a few details, that's all you need. So effective. Is that's another one. I don't want to. It would almost be fun, to look through the entire book and compare it to like this version, just to see how it looks. But but that would be, I don't know, might get a bit boring to do that. Where is the fucking, where's that panel? Oh, it's before the, I was looking at this, but it's there. Oh, you can see the scales and stuff. I wasn't sure if those would show up on the, that's all I wanted to see. It doesn't matter, never mind. I like the panels. I like that there are panel borders. Sometimes it's harsh black lines with panel borders. Sometimes it's just one panel literally butting up against the next one. And these sort of like insert panels are really good as well. I like this blue bar that doesn't really need, it's not part of this scene, but it does add a bit of like dynamism to it. And that feeds nicely into the next couple of panels and then into this. Lots and lots of black spray paint to dull everything down, but then painted on top with you know, for the sort of the background elements. And these trees just painted in with a wash, like probably in seconds. You know, it looks like he took care to make them look like a very specific kind of tree, but painted very quickly with no real like layers or anything. A really nice movement series. That whole page, the movement in every panel of that is really, really nicely done. That could almost be a perfect example of like making comic books, like one sequence, no words, it's all visual, it's movement, an act, and the result of the act. It's a mini story within just the one page, with different angles, different distances. We're looking up there, we're a bit further away here, even further away, and then closer in, and then it's just flames. Really, really nice. Like, I find that with a lot of Bisley stuff is, in terms of comic book layout and stuff, it's not always the best, but it's always like almost always fun and interesting, but it's not always like the best. But when he does it well, he does it really, really well. Like, his average is high, but then when he exceeds that average, it's even higher. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying like, oh, some of these panels are just shit. It's all great, but it's when it's even more great that it really feels even more great. Now this guy's called the Avanc or the Avanc or the Avanc or something, AVANC. I did Google that recently out of curiosity. The only thing I could find that really relates, because a lot of SLAINE is based on like actual mythology and like Celtic history and stuff. There's a Welsh like cryptid monster that some say is like a crocodile, some say it's more like land beast like, but then it's supposed to live in like lakes and rivers and things. And then I think this Avanc, because he goes to take the stone that they stole from somewhere, and then he takes it underwater, and that's where Ukko goes when he's wearing that diving suit under the water to get the stone back, and then the thing wakes up again. So but that thing is spelled AFANC, basically the same. Did I say it's Welsh? It's Welsh, like Afanc. So I assume it comes from that, like a version of that, changed slightly visually and name-wise. But that's cool. That's why that's one of the many reasons Hellboy works so well, is because there's such a rich like bunch of shit that he's pulling from, all these fairy tales and folklores and mythology and stuff. Folklore. that it really gives not just another layer of depth, but layers of depth to like Hellboy, for instance. And so with something like this, you can just look at it and go, "Wow, fucking a beast, man! That's cool, yeah." But then that's why I should probably actually read it, and I might enjoy it more, knowing that like this thing is based on like an actual ancient myth, a folk tale of this monster that lives in the lake, that gets summoned by a witch to steal a stone or something. And sometimes I'll actually draw. It's a hang and draw podcast after all, even though there's been many times where I haven't. But what I thought might be cool to do is, because I've done those, those Lobo paintings where I just copy Simon Bisley's artwork for my own benefit. Artistic benefit, not, I don't make money from that shit, except for when I sell them, but we don't talk about that because I don't know if that's legal. What I thought might be cool is to do a SLAINE one of those, like take a panel or a page from SLAINE and fucking copy it. just copy some more artwork, fob it off as my own, and then question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, profit. Probably not literally, but you get it. So I thought, like, I could look at the SLAINE book and then do a painting from the SLAINE book. But then thinking about like doing that in the same episode is a bit much, because I do want to spend more time looking at the book. And then if I'm going to do a painting, there's a high chance that will be severals of hours in itself. So I might, if I do it, it will be a separate video of let's copy SLAINE, the Horned God, in honour of the anniversary SLAINE, the Horned God. Let's all get horny for the Horned God. Horn in the horn, horn, horn. Let's all get our horns on. Are you horny? I'm horning. I'm horning my horns. Look, it's that bit from the... such a good panel. Oh, they should use it to teach how to make comic books. I don't know, it's fucking whatever. So with that in mind, of like wanting to do a SLAINE piece, painting piece, I did some drawings. I did that one. That's from earlier on, and then that was just quite a cool pose. I like the body in that one, and then I like the movement in that. So I tried to. I don't know how well I replicated it, but fucking whatever. So I thought, I'll fuck it. I'll do some fucking. I did think about doing them in my new small sketchbook, but then I'm finding it's nice to have just a little sketchbook to do little drawings. Little Doom drawings, little sexy drawings, really sexy drawings. Haha, that's the guy from the Olympics where he's like, yeah, I guess I'll participate, and he's really cool. So I thought I'd do some drawings of him. But then doing drawings of SLAINE and stuff, it's like you need a bit more space. But fuck it, I'll do a little one. I do have a picture in mind that I want to try doing a little drawing of next. I don't want to spoil the book that I've already looked through 100 million times, but there's a piece towards the back. And I thought if I'm going to like copy a piece, that would be quite a good one to do. Also, looking through the book with the mindset of what should I do for a copy? Which piece should I copy? A lot of like the decent SLAINE pieces are insanely like detailed and rendered, and like the Lobo pieces, the first one I did was just Lobo's face and not even all of his face. It was that big blue one. That's easy enough, it's a face. And then the other two were Lobo from behind, and the most detailed parts were like arms, the hair to a degree, but otherwise it's like there's not too much to fuck up. there's a lot of detail in parts of them, but ultimately it's sort of whatever. But then something like this, or even the first one I drew, let's see if I can find the image for that. From there, like, there's a lot going on. You've got to get the face right, because it's not just the tone of the skin, but his expression, the tone of his expression, and him looking up through his brow and everything, and then the dog and all the detail and stuff, and it's just like, oof, that's a lot. Like, I mean, because Simon Bisley would have just sat down and maybe just knocked this one out in an afternoon, because that's just what he does. For him, it's like second nature. But then if I'm trying to not just knock something out in an afternoon, but replicate something that already exists as best I can, I have to actually pay attention to certain things rather than just do them. But then I looked at this one and I was like, there's also a lot. The tone in its skin, it's in his skin and everything. The detail in the heads and stuff I'm not too worried about. His face, I'd be a little bit like about that. The arm's funny because it's obviously coming forwards, holding onto the handle of what I assume is an axe or something, but going behind him, or this or whatever. But it looks really short, which is funny. But obviously it's foreshortening. It just looks that way. So shall we attempt to draw? I mean, that could, if I do his head here, and that's, see, when I used to make comics when I was a kid, I'd be copying them from like the Beano or whatever, and I'd copy them basically at the size I was looking at, because I assumed comics were made at the size they're printed at. I didn't realise back then, when I was fucking 6, that comics are actually made big and then shrunk down onto paper, because I was a silly goose. But that's why I got so used. That's one of the reasons I think I work so small in general, is because early on I got so used to, you know, copying shit at that size, and then it all started getting in all there. Now that's how that works. Isn't that interesting? Oh, you're learning so much about me that you didn't want to know. Faces are hard. It's too easy to fuck them up. And the smart thing to do would be like, right there, and then like the hair is almost as tall as his head. So then that's spiky there, and then it goes all out here, and then got like there's a hand, probably not even that far away, but whatever, and it's like arm and shit, and but instead I'm like, right, give me the face, and then I might get the face really good, but then I've got to try and build the body around that really good face, and then I might fuck it all up, and then I feel very silly, and I'd want to give up and never draw again, which would be ludicrous, because everyone looks forward to my drawings because I'm so wildly popular and loved across so many platforms. Although, I mean, that said, my latest sketchbook video is getting quite a lot of love, likes and views and such, which is really, really cool to see, and that in turn is sort of boosting my YouTube page a little bit. Like not any crazy amount, but closer and closer to 10k subscribers, which is, it's not nothing at all. It's, you know, I saw someone the other day in a video, they were like debunking some flat earth stuff, which is, you know, a righteous endeavour. They were talking about this one flat earth video, and they were like, so I saw this one video, it didn't have that many views, only like 70,000 or something, and it's like, sure, in YouTube numbers, 70,000 is like, you know, it's not 100,000, it's not 1 million views, but for any just sort of general person making content and putting it on YouTube, 70,000 views is quite a lot. If any one of my videos got 70,000 views, I'd be pretty happy about it. My Jamie Hewlett video has, I think, close to 40,000 views, which none of my other videos have come anywhere close to that. I've got a few with like maybe close to 10. A Phil Hale video that like it seems to get quite a lot of views. Yeah, but if I had any videos with 70,000 views, I'd be happy. And obviously that's, you know, a topic or just a discussion that could be had, you know, for whatever. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking. Shut up, fucking shut up and draw SLAINE. His head looks a bit too squished, but it's only a doodle, and that's another reason I don't necessarily, I maybe shouldn't have drawn this in my sketchbook, because if I draw it on separate paper and the drawing comes out well, I can then just trace that and then paint it. But now if this drawing comes out particularly well, I have to draw it again, just completely again, onto a whole other bit of paper if I want to paint it. So yeah, drawing it on on a separate sheet of paper might have been a better idea. But it's not always about the better ideas, is it? It's about all in the bit, and then it's all fine. I like the tit. I like because that shows how the tit muscles move. You don't just draw tit muscles; you draw tit muscles that move with the arm. That's a really, really good example of that. I also love that I believe a lot of this era of SLAINE, especially drawn by Bisley, is based on Simon Bisley, because he was a bodybuilder for around this time. He looked like that, so which makes so much sense. Because if you're going to spend your time drawing muscles and shit, it makes a lot of sense to like have muscles and shit, because then you actually know what they should look like and where they should go, more so than like me, who has fucking zero muscle definition anywhere on his body apart from his penis. My penis is just ridiculously muscled, which doesn't even make sense because it's not, well, you know. Like there's, I can't for the life of me. Is it Vallejo? Boris Vallejo? If I type in Boris Vallejo, Peruvian American painter. Yeah, is it him? Come on, slowest internet in the whole fucking world. Yeah, I believe him and his wife, they were both fantasy artists, and they were both ripped, just muscles everywhere. Just both of them bodybuilder as fuck. And they painted bodies that looked like their bodies, which is just, it's insane in a way, but at the same time it's extremely cool and also makes sense, because they paint fucking like warriors and fucking Vikings and shit. Even the wizards were just muscle bound Neanderthals. And the artwork is only going to look so much better because they know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to drawing muscles and shit, because they've got muscles and shit. So I can like look at books and I can approximate things, and you know, I've got an okay understanding of anatomy and whatnot. But I can say, as a for instance, I got much better at drawing beards after growing a beard, because I sort of understood where it grows from and where it grows to and how it curls and how like this bit layers that bit and then these bits stick out. Like, you wouldn't necessarily think it, but like for instance, Gun Viking's beard probably, I don't know if it looks any better or different, but I feel when I draw Gun Viking that his beard is much better now than it was when I started, because I didn't have a beard when I started drawing Gun Viking. I started drawing Gun Viking like in 2013 maybe, and I didn't grow a beard until like 2019. I think it was the very start of 2019. I just couldn't be fucked to shave anymore, and I said, fuck it, I'm growing a beard. It was never like, oh, I want a beard, let me see how that works out. I just couldn't be fucked shaving all the time, so I didn't. And the rest is history, I guess. Tear muscles, dun dun dun. Yeah, I really should have like planned out where his fucking anatomy goes. That's his nipple. That's funny, isn't it? But yeah, look up Boris Vallejo, Vallejo. Him and his wife, just fucking sexy, sexy people making sexy, sexy artwork. And all their artwork's good as well. It's not just like, oh, they painted some muscly people. It's like, nah, they painted really fucking well. Europeans, man. I think Europeans. Did it say Peruvian? Where's Peru? Peruvian American painter. Where is Peru? South America. Oh, okay. So I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But European art is good. I mean, Simon Bisley was influenced by European comics, I think. Right, what's the guy? Oxerox? I can't remember. It's the guy who's got like, he's a comic book character and he's got like a pig's nose and his name's like Oxerox or something. No, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But it's the guy who draws that is clearly an influence on Bisley, and I think he's Italian. I think. I have no information. I do no research. The fact that I have like at the moment close to 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, even that's silly. Just people watching my videos. Well, I mean, actually, to be fair, I think one of the comments I get more than any other is, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? His art's good though. Which I'm completely okay with. I don't give a fuck. Your opinion about me is whatever. You know, don't be an arsehole, obviously. There's no reason to, just because I said that, go, oh, Ewan's a fucking piece of shit and I hate him, oh, I wish he was dead. But in general, I'm not too bothered about people's opinion of me. But you have to admit, as much of an annoying tosser as I can be, the artwork's good. So I'm glad people appreciate that. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Or people, you know, clicking on my videos going, had to turn off after a minute because I can't stand his voice. Which I've had that a bunch of times in my comments as well. Totally fine. I get it completely. I understand. Not everyone wants to listen to this all the time. Or worse. But then I don't mind as long as they follow that up with, but his drawings are good. His artwork's good. Cool paintings though. The sketchbook's brilliant. Oh, it's a really cool sketchbook. I wish I didn't have to listen to you, but your sketchbook's really cool. I don't mind that. That's absolutely, totally 100% fine with that. Completely. That is as it should be. Absolute fucking waste of space, waste of time. Needs to shut the fuck up. But I can fucking draw some shit. Like even this, you know, this drawing's, I'm pretty happy with this drawing already. It's nothing spectacular, but I like it so far. Put a bit more detail and depth in the hair and shit. There was we had a university, not always, but often, because it was an illustration course, as like an in-between project. Like, we get bigger projects, and then in between those it'd be like, oh, here's like a day project. They'd give us an article and say illustrate it, and then everyone does that, comes back in a couple of hours, you put all your illustrations on the board, and then they talk about them. They pull out ones they like, ones they don't, things that could be improved, and they talk about it, critique the artwork as part of the thing. And so the article I had was some thing about, like, my partner smokes and it makes me not want to have sex with him because he smells of cigarettes. Is this bad? Like it was basically a am I the arsehole kind of thing, but in some fucking dumb magazine or whatever. Am I the arsehole? Me, my, 28 female boyfriend, 32 male, smokes a lot and it smells, so it makes me not want to have sex with him. Am I the arsehole? Help me, Reddit. So the illustration I did for that was something like this. It was in a circle, and it was a torso and underwear, little like bulge in the underwear, little bulge over the underwear, little tummy, and then little legs coming out. Typical Y fronts, and then like really hairy legs, because that's disgusting, all hair. And then there was like cigarettes coming out of all the bits of the underwear, lots of cigarettes, and then smoke all going up from the cigarettes, and it was all like dirty and cigarettes and smelly. And it was in a circle because it was the no entry sign. The road sign that means no entry. And that came up because this is quite funny. Not that funny, it's just me being a dickhead. People would normally think something like this, like, oh, no smoking allowed. But I put this because no entry, because of the cigarettes. So there's no entry because, entry, so it made sense. And one of the lecturers brought that up and said, oh, shouldn't it be like a red circle with a diagonal line through it? And I said, no, it should be no entry because it's no entry. And the lecturer went, oh, yeah, you're right. And then under my breath, I went, yeah, I know. I know I'm right. That's why I fucking did it. So put the illustration up on the board, and I did it like a dark green background, light green underwear, and then like pink skin or whatever. Cigarettes, smoke, yucky. And the general consensus was that the drawing's disgusting, but really well done. And I took that as like, yeah, that's me. That's an apt description of me and what I do. Pretty disgusting, but boy can he draw. I really like how almost classic Renaissance painting this guy looks. Like his pose and his expression, the lighting and all. The hand, the rendering on the hand is really, really good. Also, do you see what I did with? Because normally I do a bit of drawing and then I look at a book and then I do some more drawing. But then today, I look at a book, do a little bit of drawing, and then excuse me. See, because the focus is on the book. Because obviously the focus is on the book. I love Ukko in his little diving suit. It's so funny. Like, that's how I want to draw characters all the time. Just funny little shapes with eyes running around. But sometimes they've got to look like people and fucking whatever. So yeah, this is where he's going into the lake or whatever it is, the body of water, to get the stone from the Avank. Oh no, he's awake. Oh no, he's not. And then SLAINE's keeping this bitch distracted. Shouldn't call her a bitch, but she was trying to do evil shit with him, but then he had one up on her and was actually keeping her distracted while these guys went out to steal the stone. But then she used her mind powers to wake up the Avank. Rise up, Avank! They have stolen the stone. Rise up and bring havoc on their heads. Look at that. I could do a copy of that. I mean, it would just be a cool painting to do. I love the brush strokes as well. Sometimes in his paintings it's like sort of paint, it's whatever. Like here it's just sort of, yeah, it's fine, paint is fine. But then he's using almost Van Gogh-esque sort of like dashes, almost impressionistic dashes of paint across the planes of the form of the muscles and shit. Less so in other places. But then the layers and the colours and the layers and shit. Ah, so good. It's just so good. This is a great little bit as well. This is almost like something out of Evil Dead, where like you know, the camera goes from like the evil point of view, rushes through the undergrowth of the forest, comes up behind someone, they turn around and it goes up to their face and they go, "Aah!" and it goes into their mouth and they fade to black or whatever. It feels like that. The red hand, I've definitely not stolen that at all. Several times. This is great. That looks almost like a Klimt painting. I don't know if it was directly referenced from one, but it looks with like the sort of almost not random, but the very, very different sort of graphic textures in the background and the lettering and stuff. It looks very much Klimt. And I like that, where it's just like a few bold brush strokes with the really dark paint. Just really good, really good, really, really, really good, really, 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 really good. That's really nice. See, that is almost certainly like photo reference from himself, probably, maybe, I say with no actual knowledge, but knowing at this time Bisley basically looked like this, he probably did like get a photo with his arm holding a fucking broom or something, or maybe even a spear. Maybe he had a fucking spear to hand, and then because that looks like how an arm would look. It doesn't look like a drawing approximating what an arm would look like. Like this looks a bit more like a drawing approximating what an arm would look like. Not that an arm couldn't look like that, but that looks like it's copied from a photo with like the lighting and everything. Again, not that I know, I'm just... I like these bits as well, with her hair like being all everywhere. Similar to like Poison Ivy, but not quite. And then she puts the helmet onto Slaine's head, crowning him King of Kings. Slaine, 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 Slaine. Personally, I'd have made these speech bubbles a lot bigger to really emphasise them all screaming Slaine, Slaine. But what do I know? But then the bad boys show up. Sideways helmeted head. You love to see those. See, that and that look like something out of his ABC Warriors. Because Bisley art all looks like Bisley art. Who'd have thought? Imagine that. There was an old Sega Mega Drive game called like Gods or something. Sega Mega Drive game Gods. Yeah, it literally just called Gods. I got the game purely because the front cover of the game was painted by Simon Bisley. The actual game itself is it's whatever. It's like a side-scrolling thing. You're a guy, a naked warrior with a helmet, and you. telling me. And you fight things, but I didn't really get on with it. Like, it certainly doesn't have the same energy as like Earthworm Jim, which is just immediately fun. It was a little bit of a slog to try and play, but it's really, really cool Simon Bisley artwork, which I either will or won't show, depending on if I could be bothered to edit a picture. But yeah, that also, it does have, I'm looking at it now, it has a sideways helmet, face, head on it, so it's Bisley, it's classic Bisley. Swamp Thing, the Avank Unleashed in SLAINE. Definitely a more quickly painted image, more so than the ones in the comic. But it's got his penis out though, that's cool. Which doesn't make it any better or worse, it's just interesting to see that it might have been like, oh Simon, as quick as you can, we need a cover. We want to put like the Avank on the cover, so do something. And he was just like, oh, fine. Again, conjecture, assumption, no actual knowledge of the thing. Cool drawing. Book 3. Getting through it. That's so fucking good. And that's, if you bought this 40p now, it's gone up 5p already, Jesus. Simon Bisley on the cover, you pick it up because it looks cool. You open it up and that's the first thing you see, and it would have like a little like SLAINE by Pat Mills and Simon Bisley. Ooh. Just amazing. It's really nice to see at a bigger size, like obviously less detail further back you go, but it is just like, it's blobs of paint, but and the banners and spears and stuff. It almost looks like digital layering to some of the paintings, but I think it's fair to say it's not. But yeah, the sideways helmet head and the stabbing and the bodies and it's like a wave almost. It's like a wave. A wave. I think this is what I had in mind when I did the bit of Gun Viking on the chariot with his gun and then bodies sort of flying, but I didn't come even like a quarter of how sort of epic this feels, especially with the background that you can really see in this larger format. It really does make it feel more epic than just like there's a bunch of people fighting. It really does. And the size and it being a double page spread, it does feel like a colossal fucking thing. Just a killer piece of artwork as well. I always feel like the spikes are kind of shit. The spikes on the chariot feel a little bit like loose and disordered, but maybe that's the point, I don't know. It doesn't take away from how impressive the artwork is. It's just a thing I think about when I look at it. Also, the helmet with like the bat's wing on it, that's quite a common Bisley sort of thing. More really good use of red. Just red wash, a few highlights. Maybe even a red wash over the highlights as well, just to make it more red. Quickly paint in the background just to make the shapes what they need to be. And then it's good. More fighting and shit. Spear. So good. Just great paintings of warriors fucking doing shit. The back of this person, I assume female, I don't know, but the butt and the muscles and everything, and the lighting on that. And like he's painted these muscles in really dark and maybe even painted like black over them. And then the just harsh lights on the top parts here. And then the red coming out of that guy's head and his axe in half. action line and fucking spear going through this guy. Hui. Dumping all the bodies in the cauldron of blood. With its ability to regenerate the dead. Oh no! That's almost like a Basquiat painting. That's how I pronounce Basquiat. I don't know if that's the official pronunciation, but it looks like it should say a Basquiat. So that's how I pronounce it. But yeah, it's like abstract zombie heads and skeletons and shit. Also love that this is just like so great. Just corpse amongst corpses rising up. Great rendering, great lighting, a little bit of reflected lighting, great colours, and then just like some pencil scribbled over the wash in the background. There's other bodies and shit on the floor. I don't even need to say anything now, just... I love the head within the helmet as well, the teeth showing through. And the care and attention he clearly gives whenever he paints these is almost funny, but it makes for like gorgeous artwork. So that's like a classic image. A good boar thing fucking people up. And SLAINE riding between the horses on a chariot. And in painting horses running, that's no fucking easy thing to do. Jesus. I avoid that shit at all costs. Heaven forbid I should ever have to draw or paint a horse galloping. I just about avoided it, I think, in issue 5 of Gun Viking. Do I have a copy? Probably not. Oh, no, I don't. I just googled horse galloping, and then I drew the legs and then made them silhouette. And I was just like, yeah, you get the idea. It's a horse running. So I didn't draw the whole horse. Just enough of it so you get the idea that it's a galloping horse. Really love this collection of people. Really good characters. Probably fun to draw and paint. Love a Bisley baboon. Whenever Bisley draws baboons and gorillas and things, it's always a treat. Anytime, I feel like it's anytime he gets an excuse to add one in, he does. Might not be the case, but I make so many assumptions with no knowledge of what I'm talking about. But it is based on available evidence, so I feel like it's not, you know... It's like if I said, oh, I bet Simon Bisley just does all this on his lunch break because it comes so easily to him. Like, that's an assumption that is probably completely untrue. I'm sure he does sit down and spend days and days drawing and painting. But then if I say, I feel like any time he gets a chance to throw in an ape into a piece, he does it. I don't know if that was written as a baboon or if he just drew it as one for fun. But I feel like that has some sort of basis to it that could be true. Obviously, that's fucking cool. Warp Spasm SLAINE is always a fun one to see. One of my favourites that I've seen was Glenn Fabry's Warp Spasming SLAINE. Obviously, Simon Bisley's is good too, I guess. A great piece. A fantastic splash panel, really. Just got tits in it. It's got a baboon. Blood. Hack, slay, screaming blood, maim, disembowel. We love to see it. And then these few pages, SLAINE looks really different to how he does through most of the book. I don't know, like, this is, I guess, the third of the 3 books. I don't know what the time frame was where he painted this. Probably quite a while after he painted the first lot. So, you know, that happens with any comic. It's going to look probably going to look quite different at the end to how it does at the start, because you're developing and changing sort of how you approach drawing the characters with every page. But yeah, he looks a lot more sort of handsome. I don't want to say feminine, but there is sort of a more of a beauty to him in these pages. Like, he looks like more of a beautiful human as opposed to some rugged fucking barbarian. Maybe it's his hair being tied back as part of it. But yeah, he looks different. I don't know. It could literally just be the hair, but really nice back piece. I love a good back. I love these panels, minimal paint. See, minimal painted panels are cool, but then if there was a whole comic made of that, depending on if it was done well, it could be cool. But I'm not saying anything. It's nice to see in amongst really like nicely, painstakingly rendered artwork, just every now and again, a not so rendered panel. It's nice to see. I mean, a whole comic like this could look really, really nice if done well, but it could also look lazy, and that's, you know, you want to be careful of that shit. Really, really nice panel there. The light and shadow, the use of paint, the use of colour, the expression, the texture on the lips and the eyes and shit. The level of detail in these fucking pages, man. The amount of drawing going on is insane. And here again, SLAINE looks way different here to, I don't know. I'll find him in fucking there. Look at him there. He looks like a fucking monster. And here he looks like a handsome gentleman. I can find any picture of SLAINE anywhere. I don't know. He's obviously just drawing him slightly differently. And painting differently as well. Because there's a lot more of the actual drawing showing through, rather than it all being heavily painted in these particular pages, that is. And then it's almost straight back into looking like it did before. The fucking worm, the dragon, the insert panel with eyes. That looks cool. The use of red and shit is really, really good. I feel like I like this. The use of red in the panel is, I don't know. Look at that. That's so fucking good. The colours, man. Painting with different colours like that within one sort of like area of flesh. Like, it's not that difficult to do. It takes a level of care above what like I might usually put into a piece. It's like mixing extra colours, layering them up, and going from one colour to another colour, then back to the other colour, and making sure you're like getting those layers correct and whatnot. And then I don't know if I noticed this before, but like he's got green looking sort of veins. I don't know if those are added in or if he's sort of painted around them and left the green gaps, but that's a fucking detail. I wouldn't have put that in. The severed head's really cool with the tongue sticking out. Oof. That's what I did to your mum last night. Ha ha! Blew her back out with my big elephant penis. Love this. Fucking Army of the Dead. Red, 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 red. Always good to get some red in there. I love the shape of this guy. He's such a cool design for... I guess he's the Horned God. I still don't know. I still haven't actually read it. Yeah, so the way his shoulders are up and like with the horn, just like a flat square shoulders, and then everything just sort of hangs down from there. That's a really nice shot of him putting the helmet on. Or taking it off, whatever he's doing. Putting it on, because there he's got it on. Okay, that's clear. Really nice shot of him on the horse as well. A fairly minimally painted one. Little brush strokes here and there for details. Half in shadow for the bit and thing. And then him coming out of his goop. That's really nicely like painted, realised, sort of like a face coming out of this slime or whatever. Oof, Christ, you thought that was good. And that's a really cool little panel. But then you get that and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Well, that's something else entirely. I really like this panel as well. I don't know if I ever paid attention to that in the smaller print version. Like, you're talking minimal paint. There's basically your silhouette with a few bits of grey just to pick out, like, shields and helmets and the larger parts of the horse. With the red mist for the sky. And a really good use of the shape of the panel as well. Really nice silhouette fight scene. Like, that's a cool effect. It looks cool and it's effective within the context of the story. Also means you don't have to draw all the details. So you just draw the shapes and then you're good to go. It wasn't until forever that I like realised what's actually happening here, where she flies over with the dragon, breathes fire, torches Slain's horse, melts its face off. Slain falls and bashes his head into a rock, and that's how they get him tied down onto the ground. Because I did wonder that, like, how do you overpower Slain and tie him down? Because he fell off his horse and bumped his head. And then the guy's over him with his knife. I think he's about to cut his balls off or something. Yeah. Now, time is now, stripling, to lop the mistletoe, cut the divine twig, chop the golden bough. I think that means he's going to take his dick and balls off. Violent my impulse, terrible the consequences, great your scream. I like the way he talks as well. That's very, like, you have to write that in a certain way. You can't just have him say, like, I can't wait to cut your dick off. Like, the way that thing is talking is really, really nicely done. And he gores him in the gut with his fucking boar belt. All of these is so well painted. The green grass and then the red blood sky fucking whatever with all the warriors in the background. That's a really nice panel. This insert panel is not quite an insert panel, but that's really nice. Like him from above, kind of. And then him leering over, like the colours. Greens and turquoises and shit in there with the red eyes shining through. And then blue, greens for the sky and the grass and stuff. And then the red mist of the blood coming out as he guts him, throws him up. Like, the red really stands out in that panel. But then he heals his gut wound because he's that guy. Whatever. Really nice side shot. Really nice painting as well. Like, just splats of colour on top of the underpainting with the blue painted in over the top to, like, carve the shapes out. Similar to these panels as well. And then the sort of the shadow silhouette of him coming closer and closer. Cheerful the work. And still, that panel is just fantastic. Such great shape with that character and his build and everything. Fantastic use of the shape of the panel. And he spears him in the dick. I don't know if I realised that before. My time has finally come. It has. I'm dying. You are. I like that's very Slaine. I like that he's just a bull of conflict, are you, Slaine? Energetic in battle with a wide-ranging axe. I am. Rightful it is yours should be the victory. It is. But now this old man, blah, 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 now I am withered and decrepit. I cannot do much anymore. My time has finally come. It has. I am dying. You are. SLAINE's just so like, yep. Yep. I'm a good warrior. And you're fucking dead. Great painting on his back and shoulders. Really nice. This almost looks... I think I might have said that before. It looks like an animation cell or something. Really nicely painted parts here and there. Just nice. Nicely nice. The worm. That's one of those things that's like... If I had to paint a giant fucking cosmic horror worm, I feel like it would be so basic and I wouldn't necessarily do a great job of it. I really like this fucking... Because it feels awkward in its movement and stuff. It doesn't feel like natural and flowy. It's got like flesh and the veins are really nicely done. Like it looks like he's used a pink pen, probably like one of these, to do the veins, and then like painted around them to give them like... They have real depth to them. Like they're actually... It looks like the veins are really sticking out like a penis. And it just fucking lumps of writhing flesh and shit. Really, really cool. Flying ships. An old man, Ukko. And I like where Ukko is, I don't know, in a coma or dreaming or something, or asleep or whatever. But he's dreaming as him, as the warrior. Not even SLAINE himself was a match for the heroic homunculus. He's dreaming of taking out SLAINE and then being surrounded by naked women. It's Ukko, the barbarian. It's really funny to see. And then they come and wake him up. The use of spray paint here is really interesting as well. They had that here where like you get a bit of paper here and spray, so it sort of gives this effect coming out here. And then similarly here, well, you can see there's almost literally like the corner of a bit of paper with spray paint here, and then just rays of sunlight coming through the clouds, and really nicely like the ray of light coming out of the clouds, and then the cloud casting a shadow over this bit of the land with this bit being in light. Like if you've ever been out in like a field and seen that happen, that's like... It seems obvious and dumb to say, but it's one of those things that if you're drawing a comic you might not think of, but then when you pay attention and you add that in, it's really, really effective. And it does feel like, with the amount of paint on these pages, it feels like there's much broader, thicker brush strokes. They might even have been painted smaller. They're like he's in the last few pages and he's just sort of getting them done. Because he's put in the work. Like this, I should have said something about this. That's a great panel. The movement, the energy, the colours and everything in that. The lighting effects and whatnot. Like he has, I mean, he's put in the work through this entire book. It's insane. I can only sort of imagine how long it took to really sit and draw and paint this entire thing. Like to draw any comic of this magnitude would be difficult, but to fucking paint it in the way he has is just ridiculous. So then you get to pages like this where it's like, it looks good, it's well done, but if you pay attention you can see much thicker, broader brush strokes, far less fine details. The backgrounds are very plain, not even painted in some cases. And like here, really, really gorgeous painting. All the lights where it needs to be, but if you look, it's almost messy with these like fairly loose brush strokes. Just the light where it needs to be, blackness all around it. Really sort of thick, almost abstract strokes for the hair. And you know, he does that throughout, but then there are times where he like really renders the hair. There are times where he doesn't. But it's just these pages in particular feel like they were done a lot quicker. which isn't bad. It's just a thing to notice about artwork, and it sort of it does for me anyway. It sort of puts into my head just about the method of creating comics like this, you know. Put the time where it needs to be, and then when you get to the end, yeah, maybe thicker brushstrokes, plainer backgrounds, just to get the shit done, because it needs to get done. And that looks like Simon Bisley. That's straight up got to be Simon Bisley. Had a photo of himself winking and drew it, because that looks like Simon Bisley. So more warp spasm, but then the chunkier, thicker brushstrokes do really give something, because these paintings do have a real sort of chunkiness and thickness to them, where some others that are maybe more finely rendered with glazes and different sprays and things, they feel a bit more laboured. This feels like it might have been painted quicker, but there is a sort of thickness and density to the paintings, sort of almost directly because of that. I like this warp spasm, almost mirroring the Great Cosmic Worm or whatever the fuck that was. Yeah, sort of rising and curling up. Just freaking out and chopping people up. And I mean, you can see what I mean, surely, about like plainer backgrounds, not as much going on in each panel. Whatever the fuck this is. But still effective, still very, very visually appealing, still tells the story. And yeah, I mean here especially, like, minimal paint, minimal layers. But then you get a page like that, which is, you know, done separately, where he's really like... And that's what I mean. If you look at the rendering in, like, here, it's perfectly good, very nice, there's different colours and shit, but then compared with this feels a lot softer, like a lot more care and attention has been paid to it. The delicate texture in the bark of the trees, the bark of the log rather, and then the sort of, I don't know, what, a sponge or whatever he was using to dapple in the foliage. And the twists in the branches and stuff. The rocks, you know, he probably didn't spend a day on them, but there's care and attention gone into the texture of the rocks. And the skin, the tones and the lighting and stuff fading into the green. Spent more time on that than he did on it, I'm just saying. And then the coloured pencil backgrounds here has just got to be like, just fucking get the shit done. And that's the end. That's a really gorgeous end piece as well. The nice sort of like sunset, but like an otherworldly, ethereal, fantastical sunset with all those purples and shit. And I like that there's a mixture of like wet on wet washes and then thicker acrylics on top of that. So it does give a nice sense of depth. And then more, there's some more covers and shit. That's amazing. That's fucking fantastic. Like, that's probably up there with one of the best 2000 AD covers ever. Like, you can have a cool picture of Judge Dredd or whatever, but then something like that is so rarely on the cover of 2000 AD. Hand painted with the horse face, the terrified, gored horse face. Fucking slightly warp spasmed SLAINE. Fucking these people up. And it's a wraparound cover. That body is so fucking good. The movement in that body just being flung away. So fucking nice. That might actually be worth like tracking down this issue on eBay or whatever. See if anyone's got this particular issue available. I'm sure all the issues containing the original Horned God comics are probably pretty rare, but just to have that, because that's like so nice. That's on the front cover of the one, that one. That's kind of cool. That's really cool. This is almost movie poster like, with all the different heads sort of photoshopped in. Obviously they're not photoshopped, but yeah. Also, if this was on a cover, it's got like a fair bit of tit in there, which is pretty risque. But it doesn't have this, so I don't know if it was actually used for a cover or not. Bloody good though. That's nice. This is really blurrily printed, which is a shame. Which I'm sure is bound to happen, you know, with the painting shit at bigger sizes. Also, I don't know if the very, very little I know, like this is based on like an actual, I think, ancient Celtic text. And I don't know if it was the Celts, but there's certain people that would like, the line in the middle actually represents like the corner of a piece of like stone or wood, because they'd chip into the corners of, over the edge of a block of wood or stone or whatever. So these marks would be made on one edge and then on the other side, and that's how they'd read their written language, which is another, like with the Avank being based on some other thing, actual folklore or whatever, this being based on actual text gives it a much deeper, richer fucking... That's fucking cool. I doubt that would have ever made it to a cover with the tits on it, but you never know. And then that's, you know, cool. I should paint that. That's really... And these Simon Bisley chapter break illustrations from the original 2000 AD serialization. So we have these sketches between chapters, which is quite cool. And I love that some of them are like SLAINE being a fucking badass. Gotta get the sideways gnarly skull helmet in. And then some of them are funny, like this, and this Warp Spasm SLAINE lifting up a mammoth, or doing a Jack Nicholson from The Shining. Here's Jack. Yeah, you get it. And a few more. Ukko on a pig is cool. The boar head is really cool. A dragon and a little guy there. Little Ukko, this guy. Really, really cool. I want to see more of these. I want to see more like Simon Bisley sketchbook stuff. I know that shit exists out there, but I want it. Well, god damn, if that wasn't a treat to look through. What I may well do is stop the recording now and then just go look through this again on my own, just because it's just that fucking good.